Okay, just bear with me setting up the live stream. Okay, nearly there. So, hi everybody. See Captain Ray and Jacobs and Conan Taylor. So I'm going to pull up the Salty mod documentation that I wrote up, and I'm going to broadly follow the same procedure, but I have no illusions it's going to be different. So we'll see how we get on. I'm going to follow our nose around the cockpit. Just waiting for Google Docs to wake up so I can pull up the checklist. Here it comes. So I've got the aircraft and avionics update installed, and this is the stock 747, not the Salty mod. So we're going to jump inside, and first things first, I don't think they've done anything with the tablets, so they're still not working as far as I know. Am I in multiplayer? Let's go and press escape, and I should be. Yeah, I'm on Southeast Asia. Should we put this on West Europe for the purposes of this video? Resume. So I'm in West Europe. I am on the stand at Stansted Airport. Whereabouts am I on the airfield? Looks like stand... It's difficult to see the stand numbers. Parking stand number 7 at Stansted. So I'm right in the middle of the airfield. I think I'm going to have to taxi down to number 4. So runway 04, sorry, to take off. So let's go and have a look at what the list used to look like. So this is me finding out as I go. I'm not following a written procedure yet, so we don't know what's going to be different. So you're going to see me make mistakes. You're going to see me discover things that work and don't work. Okay, so I've already got the controller profile set up. So we go Control 8, which does go overhead, but not into the same place we were expecting. Interesting. So we just pan down a bit then. So they've moved the views around. So battery goes on. Okay. External power is available, so we can go and turn external power on. Bit of a timing issue there between the two systems. The standby power can go to auto. The APU can go to start, and then it will fall back to on. So now we wait for the APU to come up. So let's see if we've got any kind of status screens available to show us that. If we skid down in the cockpit, can we see what this is going to give us now? Nothing in the way of being able to see the... I'm just looking for the numbers down here. So we go back overhead. We can see APU is available now though. So it's still quite simple the way it works. So that automatically cross-feeds the external power back off. We've got no control over connecting or disconnecting external power outside of the aircraft. So it's still quite simple in that way as far as I can see. Okay, so the nav inertial navigation systems. So I don't know if they've borrowed the salty mod code or if they've just implemented some of this themselves. Be interesting to find that one out. So nav lights to on. So how do we maneuver around here now? The views are all a bit all over the place. So can we, does that have 3 positions? No, I think it's only a 2 position switch. So window heats. So let's go and it's inoperative. Interesting. So we turn them on. So control 4 does still come down here, which is good. So we can go to position initialization. We can pick up the GPS position, drop it into set IRS. So let's see if we can get this in a bit better place on the screen. It's being really awkward. No, we can't. If you move too far, you can then no longer get the view back. Okay, so reference airport, we are at Stansted, so EGSS. Will it let us put it in? Yes, it will. Interesting. Next page. So what will this let us do? There's the IRS, GPS, latitude, longitude. Interesting, so that's not active. Okay. This is really, really odd. The things that they have and they haven't done, and the way that some of it works. So let's go and set up our route at least. So we're going from EGSS. We're going to EGPH. No, we're not going to EGPH. What am I talking about? We're going to Jersey. Let's go and have a look, which is EGJJ. If you can spell it. EGJJ. We're leaving Stansted on runway 04. So 04. And we can activate that route and execute it. And then when we go into departure arrival, we can say we're leaving runway 4. We're going to be doing the Det2S departure, which is there. And we'll execute that. And if we come back to the departure arrival page, we can already program in. We're going to do runway 26 at Jersey. We're going to be doing the big N1L. So big N1L standard approach route and ILS runway 26. And we're not going to do a transition, so we'll just execute that. Actually, should we have a look and see what those transitions look like? So if we go and go show arrival procedures for Jersey. Let me pull this up on the map. Let's just have a look on ILS 26. I don't think they make a huge difference to us now, so we're not going to bother worrying about them. Okay. So that's the basic route done. If we go into initref, we can go and set the performance data. So 360 for the altitude. Cost index, we'll just go 100. So we're making these numbers up. We're just trying things out, to be honest. Do we get the zero fuel work calculated? Yes, we do. So we can put in 1 ton of fuel for the reserves and execute those changes. Go to thrust limit. And we shouldn't need to change the climb performance. We'll go for 10 degrees flaps because it's a 747. Interesting, so that's now calculated the V-speeds automatically. Do we get, yes, we get centre of gravity calculated on the trim set at 7.5. So do we get to see the trim? I think it's automatic. There's no trim wheel on a 747, is there? So let's come back over here and have a look. Thrust limiting, so this is the climb performance. Yeah, that's all fine. So go back to takeoff, come back to index. So we've done performance, we've done the route. Let's go and look on the legs then. So we should have a big gap in the middle. So we'll put in the Seaford VOR. So as we leave Detling, we go to Seaford, so SFD. So you can see, if we go previous page again, you should see Det, there it is. So then we want SFD, so Sierra Foxtrot Delta, drop that in, and it's asking which one. It's going to be the one at 50 degrees. And go next page, and that will have pushed that discontinuity down. So we select big no and pull it back over the discontinuity to close the gap. And then we've got another one between the end of the standard approach route and the beginning of the final approach, so we'll just close that gap up as well, and we're looking good. So that's the route program done. So it does kind of, there's a lot of changes certainly in the MCDU, or sorry, the FMC in the Boeing. So we are going to take off runway 04, we just said, didn't we? So 42 degrees we want on the heading programmed in. We'll set our initial climb. Well, to be honest, we're going to use VNav just to see how it handles it. So we'll go straight for 36,000 and then see if it handles the restrictions on route on automatic. So we're really going to put it through its paces to see what it does, to be honest. So 36,000 feet, 42 degrees. We'll go, because we're using VNav, it will take over the control of the speed, but we can arm the auto throttle. Obviously it won't kick in until autopilot and everything's on. We should be able to, we need flight directors on to be able to then pre-select LNAV and VNav, which is good. Yeah, vertical speed shouldn't make a difference, but if we did want to go and preset that, I think typically if you engage autopilot it will take the vertical speed from the current vertical speed, but we can always have a play with that. Obviously that knocks out VNav, but you can do both at the same time. Just trying to think. Yeah, it doesn't have an N1 mode, does it? But VNav should take over from using the throttle, because then it will use the speed restrictions. So you can see here we've got 240 knots. So if we press legs to go back up to the top, we've got 250 knots as the limit immediately off takeoff, so that's fine. We've got 250 programmed in. This is saying no V-speeds. I thought that was programmed in here, so let's go and look in it. So is that not what that's saying? Oh, you have to confirm them. That's interesting. And now we've got the V speeds. That's new. So just coming down further down the checklist, we've done the flight directors, we've done the setup of the master control panel for the autopilot. So I've got a thing here about the setting the S tab. So we're going to move the elevators to align the trim into the middle of the stab area there. Okay. So overhead, Control 8 again. And we're looking for the fuel pumps. Can I remember where they are? So we should be able to just turn them all on. Interestingly, they haven't all got lights on, which is a bit odd, but maybe that's true of the real thing, who knows. This has all been updated though. This is fascinating. So engine, we've got packs and then we've got engine bleed. So we'll leave packs off for the moment. So I'm just reading through. We're not going to do pushback because we're on the edge of the apron. So we're going to turn a beacon to both. Engine bleed section, check the APU is on, and it is. Engine bleed 1, 2, 3 and 4 to on. So this, I'm going to do this from the normal view because otherwise it's difficult to see. So we pull the starter on engine number 4. And we should see down here the numbers start to pick up. So when it gets to 2, we can advance the start lever or start switch, which will ignite. So there we go. So we should now see exhaust gas temperature come up. That's good. And we need to get the flaps to 10 degrees, don't we? So now we have hydraulics coming into play, we can actually move the flaps, which is good. So overhead, the plunger has fallen back in on its own, so start number 3. Wait for the N1 to come up to 2. And, oops, you have to click on these, you can't use the mouse wheel on them. So then that's igniting. Waiting for the plunger to fall back in. Just going to go and check the live stream comments. So yeah, there is an EFB. It's not functional. Doesn't do anything. Or certainly not that I've discovered. So that's not changed from the old version of the aircraft. Engine number 3 is started. Engine number 2 is coming up. So there are some changes, so I will need to rewrite the procedure. I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it when I'm a bit more awake tomorrow. Or maybe over the weekend. I'm sorry, I'm not concentrating much on this. I'm very tired. We went out this evening. We went to see Tim Minchin sing live at the local theatre. So, yeah, somewhat distracted. He's a very captivating singer-songwriter, if you've ever heard of him. So just waiting for number 2. There it goes. Now number 1. So it's gone through 2, so we can flip the starter for engine number 1. So now that's happened, we'll see the plunger go in a moment. So obviously engine is up and running. So we leave the APU bleeds on, we go and turn the packs on now, so that will do the air conditioning or atmospheric control, let's put it that way. We can turn the APU off. Okay. I'm just looking around, so hydraulics, we can go to auto across the board. So this is better than the salty mod now, without question. Wing anti-ice auto. That's interesting. So at the engine anti-ice is on auto already. We can put this onto auto. So then we would do strobes at the runway. I'm just having a quick look around and referring to the checklist as well. So let's go and have a look and see what CAS messages we've got. So just the emergency lights is the only thing we haven't armed, which we should have done earlier really. I've obviously missed that in the checklist, so let's go and have a look overhead properly. Just arming the emergency lights. I can never remember where they are on this aircraft. Let's have a look. Are they down on the pedestal? So you've got the seat belts, which should go to auto. Obviously I'm not doing things in order. And where is the arming of the emergency lights in the 747 then? Have they moved it? Am I being dim? Got storm lights. Aisle, panel, flood, landing, taxi. We can put the taxi lights on. Okay, almighty YouTube chat, right on the top. What, over here somewhere? Your damper is on. Very top panel in the middle. Emergency lights, there it is. I'd be dangerous if I had a brain, wouldn't I? So we flick that downwards and then we can recage it. Okay, so... Oh, and we got our first freeze. There we go. So it's just saying about the doors being on auto. Parking brake is set. So do we have control of the doors? That's a really good question. Can we change that? No, we can't. That's not clickable. Oh, that's a shame. So they've just left door controls on auto. Right. So I think we're pretty much good to go, just looking at the screen over here. So we'll... Obviously we're not doing things in the right order. And we are going to need to push back even though we've got the engines running. So we'll go Shift P and see what happens. And it's doing the very slow pushback unless I release the parking brake. So they've kept that simple. Be interesting to see what they've done with the animations of the leading edge extensions, because that didn't used to be anything like correct. If I primed it. So yeah, there's a lot has changed, so it's going to need a full rewrite of the startup guide, which is not a problem. Right, so we'll stop that pushback. We'll... I wonder what the ground handling's like. So you can see I'm just pushing it gently. Let's open the engine slightly. So it is following the track of the front tyres, which is always a good sign. Obviously it's a big old heavy lump, isn't it? I'm guessing, yeah, it doesn't have a head-up display, which is a bit of a shame. So what about TCAS? Do we get to play with TCAS? I'm pretty sure the weather radar's not going to work, but don't hold me to that, it might. So TARA, it's already on. So do we get any indication that it's on? I'm seeing TA only. I thought I put it on TARA. Yeah, I did. So maybe that's not simulated very accurately yet. Can we get this concentric rings if we click on this? Oh yes we do, fantastic. Do we get any special views? That's interesting. So we either get the rows or the... Oh no, someone's going out in front of us with some sort of crazy fast aeroplane. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because we've got vertical speed and VNAV configured. It'd be interesting to see what the flight model's like, because the stock 747 did not used to be much good. But it seems to be it's caught up, but we'll find that out, won't we? I'm almost tempted when we get to the destination to land manually just to get a feel of it. We're going the wrong way, aren't we? Got to go to the opposite end of the runway. I'm so used to flying runway 22. For some reason the wind is always this way. Well, it's okay, we'll go down the taxiway. We'll do a double back on ourselves. Oh, that skidded the front tyre. This would be a good test actually of what the ground handling's like. So we're just going to double back on ourselves. Interesting, look, it doesn't like going full lock on the nose wheel. We're going to get the front tires muddy, aren't we? So this is really just an exploratory trip more than anything, to see how the aircraft behaves. Okay. Hi Mark, hi Coda. So from what we've seen so far, this 747 appears, the stock 747 appears to now be better than the Salty mod. But we haven't taken off yet. Certainly the buttons overhead and the FMC are better. But you'd expect that. So I'm guessing we go for... Do we need the whole runway for the 747? It's a long runway at Stansted, isn't it? I'm not sure of the exact numbers. We'll go for the full runway, just to be safe. So first observation is the wheel brakes aren't up to much. So yeah, slowing down in Jersey could be an issue. Okay. So landing lights on, strobes on. Let's see how it goes. I'm just going to move the controller, so I've actually got the controller near me. So going full throttle takes us to 103%, 104%. So if we pull back to 98%, which will still be plenty. Accelerates very quickly, doesn't it? So there goes V1, that's our decision point to stop. There goes rotate. We should be up. We are. Gear up. We have vertical speed alive. Start winding the flaps in. 5-degree flap now we've commanded, coming up for 1 degree commanded on the flaps. We should be turning right already. So let's go and engage autopilot and see what it makes of it. We'll keep an eye on the throttles and just see what it's doing. So obviously we turned late, so it's not on the perfect trajectory. Let's see how it regains. It looks like the rendering has improved in the EFIS display. So throttles are reacting. It's overshot 250 knots though. It used to do that in the Salty as well. I just realised I didn't calibrate the altimeter. That's because I'm not following the a proper procedure. So it's overshot because of that. The altitude restriction that it was working to. If we go and look at the legs page, it should be at 5,000 feet, so it should just gently come back down. So we are kind of, yeah, it overshot the turn slightly. So if we increase the range, so you can see on here, this is really nice now, the way it renders things. Much, much better than it was. This is a vast improvement. So can we get terrain or anything like that on here? Obviously there's not much terrain to see around here, but we'll see. It usually takes terrain a few moments to start rendering, but there's probably nothing to speak of in the area. It's kind of flat, this part of the world. Turn terrain off for the moment. What about some of the other stuff? So if we bring up airports, I wonder if the weather works. Of course there's no weather really to see either. It's very nice how the animations are working on the EFIS display though. And it's matching the turns really nicely with, you know, regulating bank angle to stay on the projected flight path. So just looking at the restrictions here, we are 5,000 feet until this next waypoint. Then we can, we're still, yeah, 5,000 feet until Detling basically. So if we zoom out slightly, oops, There's Detling. So just to give you some idea of what we're actually doing today, let's go and open Navigraph up and we can have a look. So we go into here, copy the flight plan to the clipboard, come back into Navigraph, unload that one, make a new flight plan, paste this in here, get rid of that. And obviously this won't have the full details yet, so we'll go in and say we'll select, we took off runway 04. We did the Detling 2S transition, and then we are going to be going into runway 26 at Jersey, and we're doing the big 1L. Select ILS for runway 26, add to route. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense on there, but and we were going via the Seaford VOR, weren't we? Which is already in our route. That's good. So if we go and pull up the charts for the, you can see, yeah, there's the 5,000 foot restriction out to Detling. Let's put this on IFR height, so it cleans it up a little bit. So you can see the aeroplane's got another 20 miles to go at 5,000 feet. We're getting a traffic warning. Oh, so the traffic is showing up nicely. So if we look in front of us, we should see a friend somewhere. Let's turn on labels. So if I come into the simulator, somebody near us somewhere. My word, there's a lot of planes in the sky tonight. I'm guessing everybody's playing with the new updates. So yeah, the EFB's not working. There's nothing in it. But I wouldn't have expected that, to be honest. So we've established then that LNAV works fine, or it seems to work fine. Should we get on with the route and speed this up a bit? Let's go and break lots of laws, turn off LNAV, go to vertical speed mode instead. Let's get it to climb at 2,000 feet a minute, or 2,500 probably. I bet it will hold a lot more than that. The throttles, or the engines, sorry, on a 747 are immensely powerful. It's interesting how it's struggling to hold a straight line. Maybe the wind's just suddenly changed. So we're coming up through 6,000. So 6,000 is the transition altitude, this part of the world, so we will go and switch over to standard barometric pressure. And that's done both screens, so that's synchronized, it's worth knowing about. And we're still climbing, holding 250 knots. Once we get through 10,000 feet we can accelerate. So the throttles are still nowhere near where they could be. Let's go for 3,000 or 3,500. Let's see what sort of climb rate it can sustain. That's 8,000 feet. $8,500 feet. 9,000 feet. So let's go for flight level change. See what it's really capable of. So I'm just trying modes out, to be honest, to see what happens. So it can go for about 4,000 feet a minute. That's pretty insane, isn't it? So there goes 10,000 feet. So the landing lights come off now. And we still had the taxi lights on, didn't we? Which we should have turned off before. Okay, we're looking good. So we're doing flight level change straight up to 36,000 feet, just to see what the performance is like, to be honest. So now we're through 10,000, we can also increase our target airspeed. We'll go for 320 knots. So you can see the target has moved on up the ribbon, and it's still accelerating hard. It's favouring acceleration over climb rate, which you'd expect. Just crossing through Detling. If we go and have a look on the map, you can see where we are on the route. So we're just coming through Detling, then down to Seaford. So I'm really impressed now with the EFIS display. It's very good. Super impressed with that, to be honest. I'm almost tempted to change the weather purely to see if the weather radar works nicely. So let's go for 340 knots. The 747 really can shift, can't it? Can it accelerate? It's going straight out to 340 knots without really much trouble at all. And then it's going to go for climb rate again because we were on flight level change mode. So just have a little look overhead and see what has changed. So we've got the emergency light up there. So from what we saw, the packs are now controllable. The engine bleeds were controllable. We saw the wing anti-ice was off, so we put that onto auto. Again, we need to have a look at a pilot operating handbook, I think, now, for a proper 747, if we can get hold of one. Or for a 747-800 at least. To get the sequence of operations. I'm sure some of the professional pilots on YouTube will hit the ground running with this thing now. Now it's a little bit more realistic in terms of, you know, operating the buttons and configuring the aircraft. I mean, there's not a lot different, but there's enough for it to be, you know, for the sequencing of things, to do things properly if you want to, for it to be correct. So just coming up through 20,000 feet. Where are we on the route? Not sure we're going to reach 36,000 feet, to be honest. Don't pay any attention to the top of climb in LittleNavMap. It thinks we're in a Cessna. Quite how a Cessna is going to get to that altitude is anyone's guess. Let's go and choose the 747. And yeah, look, top of climb is going to be 150 miles into the route. So it might even be worth saying get to 25,000 and call it. So let's do that. I wouldn't imagine the Salty will still work because the underlying aircraft has changed enormously. So I may well delete the Salty until we hear different. Well, yeah, I'm just reading the comments. Of course, they'll have a branch of development for the avionics update, but I won't imagine it will be anywhere near done yet. Okay, so we're on our way to Bigno. And look here, Bigno is the beginning of the standard approach route into Jersey. It's quite an interesting one because we loop around Guernsey and Jersey to get there. What I may well do though is go manual at the point we get to Perch and fly it in myself just to give myself something to do and to see how it behaves. Although I know a lot of people would like to see approach mode and stuff like that. But that's not flying, is it? Pressing buttons. Okay, so we're cruising now, so let's go and push this out to the limit of the airframe at the altitude we're at. So we'll go for 360 knots. This really can shift, can't it? It's interesting that I think most of the Boeing switch over automatically to show Mach number, but it happens between about 26 and 28,000 feet typically. So you can see we're doing Mach 0.85. Obviously if we add another 10,000 feet we could probably be doing Mach 0.9 something. The 747 is very fast. We have some company. So what do we get in terms of data then on the display? So we get on the legs page you get the next waypoint with any restrictions. If you go route data you can find out things like the fuel burn down, which is quite useful. You get a progress page as well, which gives you your ETA at the next few waypoints, which is really useful as well. So 909 Zulu. So I've changed the time, otherwise we'd be flying in the dark, which wouldn't be very helpful for a exploratory flight. I'm just wondering where we can see the time within the cabin. There it is. So 1 hour, basically, until we arrive at Jersey. So we're racing along though at the moment. So I'm just looking at the live stream comments. Is there a manual or checklist? I haven't actually looked. All I did was work through the salty checklist and looked for things that needed doing. If we look in here, yeah, this looks to be quite verbose. So there's a lot in here now, which is good. So there's things we haven't done, that, like putting the guard on the emergency lights. So. Oh, we did though, didn't we? Yes, of course we did. We armed it and guarded it. So yes, so there are checklists built into the simulator, which is good to know. It's interesting. Let's see what they've got in here. So brakes released, power lever. And that's all they say about takeoff. They don't say... They're saying about pressing the toga button. They're not saying anything about... Yeah, it never gives you any context, does it? So there's nothing about rotating at no more than 3 degrees a second. There's nothing about max speeds for the gear or the flaps. It's kind of the bare bones, isn't it? And then the climb. There's nothing about the transition altitude. I guess it's functional, isn't it? And obviously you can expand upon the basics as much as you would like to make it more and more realistic for, you know, whatever you're wanting to simulate. So just reading the comments there about the controls, the way to get around that, if you don't like the way the Xbox control mechanism works, I'm just going to pause the sim to do this. Go to General, and if you look in Accessibility, I think it is, Cockpit Interaction System, you want to have that on Legacy if you want to have like the mouse interface. I'm not going to switch it back because it will completely mess it up. But you need to change the cockpit interaction system to Legacy. And we've got a 747 in front of us now. It's probably wondering where on earth we went. We do get to watch him flailing around though, which is good fun. Or is he going to go for a barrel roll? There's an ATR in a massively steep dive. So where did the ATR go? It's disintegrated. So let's have a look. If we increase the range on this, we can see Big No is coming. While we're en route to Big No, I'm going to go and grab a quick cup of coffee, and I'll be back in a moment. Right, I'm back. How's it going? Someone's asking, is there Simbrief integration? Oh, look at this. Look how wonderfully drawn this is. Very cool. Okay, let's go and have a look. Simbrief integration. So if we go to menu, and where will they have hidden it? So you can influence the IRS alignment. So only the white options are available, so it doesn't look like it has it, but don't take my word for it. You would have expected it to have been in here. I noticed there's no AAU or AOC menu at all, similar to what the Airbus might have. So yeah, maybe it hasn't got it yet. Just clear that message. FMC clear. I now can't clear the scratch pad, so we appear to have broken it, but we'll leave that alone. This is awesome, isn't it, the way it's rendering things? Much better than it was. Let's go and turn the weather off, because there is no weather to render. We've still got our friendly neighbourhood 747. Although these look slightly wrong. Let's have a look at some of the other modes. So that gave you either full circle or that. So let's go and have a quick look at the standard approach route chart. So there's the big no approach that we're coming in on. I presume the nav radios will be automatically programmed in with the flight plan. So if we come back to index, doesn't look like this works though, not on the soft keys. So let's press menu, see if it does work. Have we actually broken it? That would be a bit of a shame, wouldn't it? No, it's still working. FMC. But I seem to have broken the scratch pad, which is always useful. Hang on, this is saying pause in it. Does that mean we've lost? But no, the legs are still there. So all I was going to do is go and look at the nav radio to see what's tuned in. So ILS 110.3, 263 degrees. So let's go and have a look at the approach chart. 110.3, 263 degrees. Exactly the same. Perfect. So let's go and acquaint ourselves with this while we're looking at it. So it's a 3-degree glide slope into Jersey. What's the airfield elevation? Because that's important to us. It wants us 2,000 feet at the VOR. Do they not give us airfield elevations? 5,000 feet transition altitude. Well, we can easily find it out from here, but Jersey, elevation 271 feet. So best part of 300, we'll call it that. So we want to be at 2,800 feet if we were coming in at the beginning of the feathers, but they want us at 2,000 feet at the JSY VOR. So as soon as we start turning at Big No, which is about to happen, we'll start descending. We're only at 25,000 feet, remember. So we want to be down to, let's come down to 10,000 feet to begin with, because we can do that at speed. Whoops. Still haven't got used to the acceleration on these knobs. So 10,000 feet, let's do a flight level change and see how quickly it will do it. Do we get the green banana on the projected onto the screen? Yeah, we do. So yeah, it's going to descend to 10,000 feet really quickly, look. About 20 miles or so, maybe 30. I love the rendering, it's really nice. So we can see, I think that's old, is that Alderney? So that would make that Guernsey, and Jersey is underneath the cloud further away. Can I land a 747 on Jersey? Well, I don't see why not. No, in the real world, I'm not sure. I can't see why not, though. Taking off is the bigger problem in a 747 when it's loaded. It can land actually remarkably slowly if it's not carrying too much load. You can come in kind of, 120 knots with, if you've done a long trip and you're empty on fuel. It's got ginormous flaps, remember. So I was just looking at the descent markers. I mean, I probably haven't programmed, I didn't program the route wonderfully, but you can see there is a top of descent. This looks like it's made a bit of a mess of it. We're going round. Maybe it's put the, yeah, it's put in, or it's rendering, sorry, the more than we programmed, let's put it that way. So let's go and have a look. So we've got runway 36 there, and then we've got more. So let's get rid of that vector here. So let's press Control 4 to get rid of the speed brake out of the way. Get rid of that. So yeah, we're not allowed to remove that, look. It's part of the procedure, was the missed approach, I guess. But it makes a bit of a mess of the screen, doesn't it? Obviously our route is we go around the island, double back and come in, which you can see here. So we should have Guernsey off of our left wing. Yeah, so we're just passing Guernsey. If you've not got the freeware, you can get freeware scenery for Guernsey and Brequo. That's not how you pronounce it. I'm not sure how you pronounce Brequo, but there's a wonderful piece of scenery with a little castle, and you can try and land. There's an airstrip in the lawn where you can land STOL aircraft. It's very good fun. But the Channel Islands have got some very, very good freeware scenery from FlightSim.2. So how are we doing on altitude? 11,000 feet and dropping. like a stone. So obviously we need to slow down when we get to 10,000 feet, so we'll start doing that now. It's a big heavy lump of an aeroplane, so it might not slow down as quickly as we like, so we will use spoilers to make that happen quickly. Well, they're saying that the speed is coming off. So it has raised the nose, look, to level the aeroplane out. Rather than go for 10,000 feet, it's favouring getting rid of the speed. So we can help it do that. We're going to throw the spoilers out, and you will see that green line extend as the spoilers extend. They're not helping enormously though. They're quite big spoilers. That's quite surprising. So we'll continue on down to 2,000 feet. We don't want to do it too quickly. So if we go to 3,000 to begin with, and we'll do this vertical speed mode so we can judge it. Do it 1,000 feet a minute. The spoilers back off. So the landing lights come back on now. We're underneath 10,000 feet. Yeah, so what's happening here, look, it's got a missed approach figure 8 where you kind of double back. It'll be using the VOR, where you double back over the VOR to come back in again. There's a little bit of mist out there, isn't there? So we should see Jersey out there. It's underneath the mist. Can't see it at the moment, which is going to give us some fun and games for landing, but that's fine. So let's go and set the heading bug to the runway direction, which is 263 degrees. It will just give us a nice frame of reference for when we turn. Yeah, this mist could have been done without, couldn't it? So let's get the speed back down now to 200 knots. And we'll use the spoilers to expedite that, otherwise we'll find ourselves in a hurry. So we could drop the gear at this point, which would give us a nice amount of drag. Yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? I've just seen the comment about usually missed approaches a dotted line. It may be that this has just rendered it wrong. I think it has. I think it can't make the turn at the radius it wants, so it's made a real mess of it. So we'll see how we go. That's why I said once we get to perch I'll go manual anyway. So what we'll actually do, I guess, if I spin that heading round to the direction we're going, because we know what we're doing, it's just... So we're going to go to heading mode, yeah. So we're now in heading select mode instead, so we're following the direction we tell the aeroplane to go. So let's zoom in on this a bit more. It's obviously just got this wrong, hasn't it, the rendering of it. So if we go and look at the charts, we're coming down and it's just got it wickedly wrong. It probably just hasn't quite got the radius. It could be we're going too fast. I bet if we slow down it might straighten itself out. So if we pull the gear down now, I'm just wondering if we give it a tight enough turn radius, if it will sort itself out. So we're going for flaps now. So flaps are travelling. Go for 10. So target airspeed of 170. Yeah, it's not really correcting, is it? It's fine though. So if we look out of our left wing now, we won't see the airfield. Oh, we got a... That's interesting, look. So we're right on the edge of going too slowly. But what's happened there, the throttles haven't reacted quickly enough. The autopilot has stayed on. So I'm advancing the flaps to give us more slow speed handling. Obviously they take time to travel. They're just getting there now, and you can see the ribbon is extending away from our current speed. That was interesting. It could have been a wind change caused that, where we were so close to the edge of the performance envelope. But I was really slowing down on purpose to tighten these radiuses to see what would happen. Yeah, you can see it still can't, it just can't draw it. So let's take this back out to 180 knots so we don't get an issue. With the turn. So if we have a look on the map just to illustrate where we are. So airfield's over here and we're coming down this side, and then we will turn when we get to perch. So we'll turn, pull the range back in a bit more. Come back down, we'll come down to 2,500. Actually, if we go for if we square the corner off, we could come in at 2,800, couldn't we? Which would make sense with what we were saying earlier. So let's come down to 2,800 at 500 feet a minute. So it's doing that for us. You can see that the ILS has started to appear. Obviously we're still flying away from the airfield, so we're going to fall below the ILS, or below the glide slope I should say. So you can see the wind is from the left, it's slowly pushing us away from the track where we went to heading mode. So we'll begin our turn back towards perch. Okay, so let's get this over. We'll square the corner. So we'll come in perpendicular to the approach path. Yeah, see, notice I said if we're banking over, it requires higher speed because you're losing the lift of the wings. Or we could reduce the bank angle allowable. We're right on the edge of what's possible. So far the stock 747 has been really good. It's just this rendering is cocked up on this particular approach. But then this is a third-party airfield, so it may be that this needs to be fixed itself, but we'll see. I seem to remember this rendering incorrectly in the past. So what we can do is keep an eye on it over that side. If we put this on approach mode, interesting, this isn't showing approach mode. Maybe it won't until I'm engaged on the localizer. So showing plan mode and map mode. So we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Okay, so there's the glide slope, there's the localizer. I'm going to come off the autopilot. I'm going to come off the auto throttle. So we're above the glide slope now, we're off to the left, so let's just dump the nose a little bit, get this back on track. So we're just keeping an eye on the diamonds here. That warning. So we're too high. We'll let the aeroplane fall. Just keeping an eye on the airspeed as we descend.
2500.
A little bit off to the right, so we'll just turn left gently. A little while. Whoa, there was a bump there in the air. Wasn't expecting that. Whoa, and it goes again. It's a fair bit of turbulence, and we've gone high, massively high all of a sudden. I think it's just a fair bit of bumpy air around. Yeah, because that went into stall then. Look, it dropped. Look at the airspeed jumping around. There's just some turbulence, I think. Or it's the old flight model problems that the 747 historically always had. It seems to have calmed back down. He says, famous last words. Yeah, I think it was just some turbulence. I'm hoping to see an airfield soon. Today would be good. There it is. A little bit off to the left. So we just correct that. Now we're going to be off to the right, which was not perfect. It's saying we're high on the VASI lights, but I don't always trust them.
200. 40, 30, 20, 10.
He didn't make it. So yeah, that was probably at the limits of the runway length that this 747 can deal with. I'm sure the Salty could brake harder than this one does. I think that might need some time in the hangar afterwards. So I guess the takeaway today is that the stock 747 actually isn't bad at all anymore. Really impressed. For a free aircraft, it's pretty good. So on the run back in, we can turn the landing lights off. Strobes go to their off position. Whoa, started to wander. We can get the APU fired back up if we can get to it in time. So APU goes back to start and then to on. and then we can engage it in time to disable the, or to shut the engines down. Let's go and find somewhere to park. There's a C-130 over there. Should we try and go on this side? Yeah, in looking at the layout of the airport, there's no way you could bring a 747 in here, is there? It wouldn't fit. I'd love to see the Antonov try and get in here. It'd be quite amusing, wouldn't it? Let's try and avoid wiping our wing out on this aeroplane that's parked here. I think we're going to wipe out the tail of that aircraft. Oh, no, we're just about going to get away with it. Ooh, feet to spare. I guess we'll put it in here if we can. Parking brake on. APU is available, so we switch it on, the generators, and then we should be able to go and shut the engines down without causing too much drama around the cockpit. So let's see what the shutdown sequence is like on it. So we should be able to go now and turn off the packs, turn off the APU bleed. We should be able to turn off the pumps. I think the APU has its own. Hydraulic pumps, we should be able to remove them all. There's not much to do now, is there? So we do have external power available, so we could go over to that and we could turn the APU off. That's all good. So once you've done all of that, I guess you could just turn standby power back off. And did we turn the inertial navigation system off? Turn the emergency lights off. Down the bottom we can go and switch off the various lights outside. Taxi lights off. And on the pedestal the seatbelts were down here, weren't they? So that would come off, and then it would be great when you turn that off if they had some sound effect of absolute mayhem behind you. The number of flights, like, there should be an Olympic medal for trying to get off an aeroplane first or something. I think we're pretty much done. So once you've done that, it's just a question of turning the turning the external power off, then turn the battery off. And we're cold and dark at that point, or we should be. There we go. The most unlikely visitors to Jersey ever. I'm not sure, I'm just reading the comments, I'm not sure there are any passenger 747s left around. I know one of Virgin's last ones was used for the rocket launches, wasn't it? For the Virgin rocket company that went broke a few weeks ago. I know there's lots of freight 747s still around. That was good fun. So yeah, the takeaway from this story is the stock 747 in the simulator is very, very good now. Whether a real pilot could weigh in on how good it is remains to be seen, but I imagine there's lots missing. So yeah, it's pretty big, isn't it? If we zoom out. So what's the one over here? I'll have to go to the drone camera, won't I? To be able to fly around. So what's this one? I think this is one of the stock aeroplanes in the sim, isn't it? Yeah, it's not really an anything aeroplane. This is one of the static planes in the scenery. There's obviously a C-130. Or is it? Was it a C-130 or a... Yeah, it is. Yeah, these are just stock AI aircraft. So this is the Jersey scenery. I've forgotten which developer makes it. Very good scenery. So cool, isn't it? Anyway, that was our first look at the 747 following the aircraft and avionics update to Flight Simulator. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Obviously over the coming days I'll hopefully get some time to write up the procedures properly. I may hang around until I've seen one of the real pilots do it to get some, to crib for the proper ordering of things. But other than that, yeah, that was good fun. And I'll see you all again soon, okay? Thanks for following and watching and for keeping me company on the test flight.